Hi guys, so I am on day 40 of the Whole30. Now some of you might be saying, I thought it was 30 days. What are you saying? I have been doing the reintroduction phase. So for the last 10 days, I've been doing the fast track reintroduction. So there are two different types of reintroduction that you can do. There's the fast track and there's the slow roll. Now the fast track is the one that's recommended if it's your first Whole30, and that's so that you can understand how the different food groups interact with your body now that your body's kind of like clean and detoxed. The problem with doing something like the slow roll, if you're doing your first Whole30, is that well, what the slow roll is that you continue eating Whole30. You might relax a little bit. You might not make your own condiments. You might like have regular salad dressing or whatever on your salads, but you really don't change anything, and for quite some time. With the slow roll, it's something where 2, 3, 4 weeks down the line, you see something, you're like, I really, really, really want that, and then you have that, and then you can see kind of how it reacts with your body. But that's not really recommended for the first Whole30, because with the fast track you can get a lot of really quick information. You can see how these different food groups interact with you, and it's just a really easy way to get some information about your body and what's happened in your body, and get it pretty quickly. One of the biggest things with, or one of the hardest things with the slow roll, if you try to do it, if it's your first Whole30 especially, is that a lot of people by the end are like really, really excited to reintroduce some foods. And so it's really easy to be like, well, this is really worth it. I'm going to have this today, and this, and this. And then you start eating maybe all of the different food groups that you have already eliminated. So there can be a big problem there, and then you're like, well, I don't know if it was the gluten, I don't know if it was the grains, I don't know if it was sugar, or if it was the dairy, or if it's the soft cheeses or the hard cheeses, or what. So there can be some really big problems with doing a slow roll reintroduction your first Whole30. But that is an option. Like, if there are some people that finish the Whole30 and they're like, I don't want to eat any differently at all, and then the slow roll is great for them, because then they will go the next, weeks, months sometimes without changing really anything, and so the slow roll really does work for them. But what happens with the fast track is that you go very systematically through the different food groups that you've eliminated. You start with the legumes, which are the least likely to cause you any kind of trouble, and then you go back to Whole30 eating for the next 2 days, and then you try the non-gluten grains, and then go back to Whole30 for 2 days. Then you try dairy, and then you go back to Whole30 again, and then you try gluten, and then you go back to Whole30 again. And now you want to do at least 2 days, sometimes 3 in between each of them. You'll usually notice the physical symptoms right away, if you're going to get like bloated, or if you're going to have, like diarrhea or gas or whatever, right after. You'll probably notice it right away. But a lot of times these foods, especially like dairy and gluten, can have some really awful side effects like the next day. So they really recommend doing at least 2 days in between each of your like reintroduction days. So I did legumes first. Now I went low FODMAP because I still had some issues with my gut when I was finishing the Whole30. So I went low FODMAP. So I only reintroduced like the easiest to digest of the things that you could possibly do. So the first day I looked at, what do I really eat that are legumes, and, what can I introduce, looking at the FODMAP list. And so really it only just left me with peanut butter. So I reintroduced peanut butter, no big deal. I didn't really have any issues to deal with, so that was really, it was a great way to start off. I had peanut butter with 90% dark chocolate, which was delicious. So that was really delightful. I went back for 2 days, and then I did non-gluten grains. So I think I had some quinoa and corn with my, I had some chicken soup that I made, and then what else did I have? Oh, corn tortilla chips. I had that with my homemade salsa. And I actually did notice I had a little more energy that day. So I think that at least a little bit of grains in my diet is a good idea, because I did notice that I didn't necessarily have less energy than before the Whole30, but I definitely didn't get a lot. I didn't feel like I had enough energy, or what I really wanted to have energy-wise. So I think that, especially since I'm an active individual, and right now I'm teaching 6 fitness classes a week in addition to my own workouts, so I really kind of need that extra energy. I was really kind of limited with my fat sources, so while fat source is really great, I think that since I am so very active, I think some grains are really important in my diet. Next I did dairy. I think I just did some regular butter. So normally on the Whole30 you can have clarified butter, which you take away all the dairy out of it, or you can buy ghee, which is, again, I mean, the same idea. It's fat without that dairy in it. So I had regular butter, I think, on my breakfast, and then I had some chocolate milk. And I think that was all the dairy that I had that day. Yeah, that was all the dairy I had that day. And I didn't have too bad of a reaction. I did notice that my stomach wasn't too terribly happy, but I knew that I've had issues with dairy before the Whole30, so I wasn't really surprised. And it really wasn't as bad as I thought it would be since I'd been going without it for a whole 30 days. But I really didn't eat a whole lot of dairy prior to the Whole30, so that makes sense to me. So I, again, will just limit dairy. I don't eat a whole lot anyways, and I'll just be a little more mindful of it now. And then lastly, it was actually, I reintroduced gluten, I only had one day in between dairy and gluten because my sister and I went to a chocolate festival, and they had so many baked goods. I did actually wrap them all up that day because that was the day after I reintroduced dairy, and so I didn't want to do it the next day just in case. But I did wrap everything up, and I did have gluten the next day. So I only had one day in between my dairy and my gluten. And I did find out, I don't get like crazy bloated, but I do definitely notice I do bloat after gluten. I do also notice that I feel kind of like foggy, and I don't feel quite myself. And then probably the worst thing was that I noticed that when I eat gluten, especially in the form of more of like treats, I have 0 breaks. So it's not even like 0 breaks for that treat. I can't get full. It's like I don't have a measure of how full my stomach is after that. So I definitely will have to be greatly reducing how much gluten I have, and I think that's totally fair. And I think that's, I mean, if there's one thing that the Whole30 has really done, is it's shown me that I can eat in a healthier way. I can have just meat and vegetables, and I can survive. So I think that was a really good thing for me personally, because I've always really struggled with eating like that, because growing up we always had grains, we always had pasta, we'd always have bread, we'd always have potatoes, we'd always have something like full of carbs and meat, and we didn't really have a whole lot of vegetables, and so really struggling with the whole idea of just, protein and veggies. And that's okay, and that's fine, and I can actually do it for 30 days. So I do actually find myself gravitating back to how the Whole30 meal template is. So I think that's kind of, I'm going to be eating more like that more regularly without any kind of, no more like mental struggle, no more like mental struggle that way. So, other things that happened, I cooked more. I got some more kitchen utensils that I really enjoy and I know how to use, and I do use, and I cook breakfast every single morning now. I lost 3 inches around my waist. I did not lose a single pound, but I did lose 3 inches around my waist. I feel like even like my face has gotten a little bit smaller. That's kind of nice too. I can notice that I feel like the puffiness isn't as bad as it used to be. And it might be a little puffy because I just had my gluten day, yesterday. So I'm a little bit puffier than normal, but yeah, so reintroduction went really well. I think I'm going to do it again, maybe not the legumes and the non-gluten grains, but I think I might do dairy and gluten again and see what happens, because I think that, it's really hard to tell. Is it because I didn't sleep well that I felt that way, or is it because, I ate that food that I didn't sleep well, or what? So I think I'm going to, I eat clean. today, and I think I might do another day or two, and then I might do dairy again, and then I might do gluten again and see what happens, just to kind of confirm how I feel. I probably actually reacted to that. So it's really interesting. If you have any questions about reintroduction or the Whole30 in general, please don't hesitate to reach out. I've had quite a few people message me and ask me questions, and I like talking about it. So, I mean, it didn't work exactly how I thought it was, but I still think that it's a great thing that everyone who is interested in it could totally do. I think it is very valuable. So, toodles! Thanks for watching!